Hey folks, on this recording of The Trial from 1962 directed by Orson Welles, I felt like we had a great conversation, but I forgot to hit record on the video. Now, a lot of our audience is audio only, they wouldn't know, but we'll just be playing some goofy silent shit that we recorded for like 5 minutes on video, and it's just going to loop over and over again. Well, I'll throw in some scenes and some images here and there. You know how it is. But for the video version of this, there still should be like cool scenes to see and stuff, but it's not going to match up with what we're saying, and it makes no sense because, again, I forgot to hit the video record when I set this up. But the combo was too good to do it over again. I refuse to do it over again. So that's why the visuals aren't matching, because they don't. But still, doesn't mean I won't put in something to see. But there you go. Now, let's get on with the episode.
Joseph K. Joseph K.
You're under arrest.
Who accuses me? What's the charge?
Mr. K, you seriously think that we don't know who you are?
Who are these people?
The accused.
How do you know you're arrested?
They woke me up and told me.
Are you sure you were awake?
This could be a trap.
Can there be any doubt that behind my arrest, a vast organization is at work?
There isn't a hope of getting out of their clutches.
You can't all be guilty.
You're out to kill me!
To be in chains is sometimes safer than to be free.
Hello, welcome to Movie Umpers. My name is Bob Sham.
My name is Angela.
The sounds of your maybe dogs. And in the dystopian future that I would run, if you're not wearing a GQ branded bucket hat like I'm wearing in this recording that I've worn all month long, you will be stripped, buttered, and executed.
Buttered?
Buttered, lathered. We want to give you a little bit of pleasure before you're in.
Ugh.
But by that point, you're not worthy of the GQ bucket hat. Franz Kafka wrote about this too, but he burned the manuscript. Some bullshit tomorrow is the theme. We're talking about movies that take place in the future, often just around the corner, something familiar. In this movie, it seems like, at least from our main character's perspective, that things have changed around our main character, and maybe they were changed in a while, but they are now suddenly affecting the main character, and he's very confused as to why anything is taking place. Mm-hmm. And we are talking about what Orson Welles had once stated was his masterpiece, his favorite movie, but also he had some bitterness in that it wasn't necessarily a major commercial hit. As you can imagine, after watching the movie, it wouldn't be a major commercial hit. This is one of those, like in Stalker, we talked about how it would be funny to trick your relatives into watching Stalker, especially with Stalker being almost 3 hours long. Mm-hmm. I think The Trial is a good contender. Can you get your mother to sit through The Trial from 1962, directed by Orson Welles, written by Orson Welles, adapted from the book of the same name by Franz Kafka, starring Anthony Perkins, who you recall played Norman Bates in Psycho, his most famous role. Orson Welles, Jean Moreau, and Romy Schneider, amongst many others. Cinematography by Edmund Richard. There's some multiple European companies involved. This is technically a European movie, mostly French with a little help from West Germany and such. But
what did you say? It's like he made films that inspired noir, and then he went and made a French noir.
Yeah, he contributed to the inspiration of French New Wave. It definitely feels French when you watch the movie,
it really
right?
does.
But yeah, Orson cutting in here. The Trial. Now, this is the story, to me, a heady movie, beautifully shot.
Yes.
The settings and everything are so particular. There's frame after frame after frame, just a beautiful fucking movie here. But this is the story of two movies to me. This is the story of the trial as adapted from Franz Kafka, in which a man is being accused of something, but they will not tell him what he has been accused of. The trial that looms over the man is being done without him, and he is asserting himself throughout this environment, trying to push back, trying to assert some kind of logic or known or what he thinks he can bring to the table to counter this. But the whole time, he does not know why he is being tried.
Everyone else seems to.
This is a complex movie that you could probably explain in like 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, you're halfway there.
And by the time the trial is over, they come and get him for an execution. But the movie also opens up on this fable that is also in the book about a guard who guards a door, and a man sits there and he's waiting to enter the door, and he waits and waits what according to the fable is like a lifetime.
Everything he has, he gives away in the hope of bribing the god, who never fails to say to him, I take what you give me, only so that you will not feel that you have left something undone.
Until finally the man says to the guard,
Every man strives to attain the law. How is it then that in all these years no one else has ever come here seeking admittance? His hearing has failed, so the guard yells into his ear, No one else but you could ever have obtained admittance. No one else could enter this door. This door was intended only for you.
And now I'm closing it forever.
the basic Kafka-ness is present. But the second movie here that I feel, and I think this requires a little bit of knowledge of the players involved, and maybe a little bit of intent by the director Orson Welles, is that this is an Anthony Perkins movie purely, right?
Yes.
Off the top, amazing his performance in this movie. Absolutely fantastic. Psycho is great. I love that movie. His performance here blows that out of the water.
Absolutely.
And that's
He's amazing.
And
in
that's
this.
comparing it to another great performance
Yeah.
that he embodied. And this one, he's just carrying this whole fucking movie. Now, Anthony Perkins, this movie would have worked during Movies Are Gay
Yeah.
in terms of subtext and such.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, a couple of movies this month are gay because movies are always a little bit gay. Anthony Perkins, a very complex fellow, was one of those classic Hollywood closeted gay types. And if you knew him, you knew that he was gay. It wasn't a secret to Orson Welles.
Absolutely. He was married and had a son, and it also wasn't secret to his family.
Yeah, and when he died of AIDS, he was still married, and his widow fucking was on one of the planes in 9/11.
That's so fucked.
I think she was like a photographer or something but it was always very convoluted in his mind, and he openly supported gay rights causes, especially when it seemed a little safer to throw that opinion out there. Even though he was married later in his life, this was not a bisexual man. This was a gay man. And the word bisexual often is like a cloud for a lot of these old actors, but the truth is they're all pressured into these types of relationships. And you look at old Hollywood and shit, and characters getting married after just meeting, like there's some truth to that in the culture of the way America was then. So it just makes it more obvious if you're in your 30s and you don't have a woman or are married, right? And it's even worse for the women who don't have men. But Orson knew, of course, that Anthony Perkins was a gay man. And he made decisions to escalate the tension in certain ways throughout this movie. And some changes that Orson made from the original story may have been to center around the fact that to help pull the tension off of his closeted gayness. So when you know that, and like some details are when he's encountering these women, like
every woman wants him.
Jean Moreau, she's like Mrs. B or whatever. She's one of the biggest actors at the time in this movie, but she has such a small role. And then Romy Schneider, who he's interacting with a lot later in the movie.
She's Orson Welles' nurse.
Women do pine for him, but he does not seem interested. And you can knock it up to him being just so agitated by what he's going through, but you know, if you're a heterosexual man and hot French women are chasing you, you can maybe at least blow off steam for a night, right?
There's a particular sequence of events where he's interacted with Romy's character quite a lot. And every time she sees him, she tells him, I just want you to like me. I want you to want me. I want you. Here's a key to my house to come fuck me tonight.
Yeah.
And he never takes her up on it. Flip side, there's a man waiting to also speak to Orson Welles, who's been waiting for years to speak to Orson Welles because Orson Welles is a solicitor. He's a lawyer. And he's supposed to be helping Anthony Perkins' character, Mr. K, but Mr. K doesn't believe he's doing anything. So he's there again to see him. Bosch and he have this moment where they sit in a corner and Bosch is telling Mr. K, he says, I'll tell you a secret if you tell me a secret. You get this, we have something in common. Their body language, Bosch has already turned towards Mr. K. Mr. K, the way Anthony Perkins lifts his leg up and crosses it over his other leg, he's basically sitting he's tied up in a little knot, just staring at Bosch tell me, I'll tell you my secret. Yes, I'll tell you a secret if you tell me your secret. And of course they're talking about these trials, but what are the trials? You know, we don't know why either of these men are in trouble. I think Bosch does say at some point what he was doing, but there's this thing in the train film from the Noir Month where they swap the murders.
Strangers on a Train.
That idea of, we're on the same page, right?
What was it you wanted to tell me?
You'll have to tell me one of your own secrets, please, so we can trust each other. To keep quiet.
Okay, I'll give you a secret.
All right,
You understand me. It's that I'll give you a secret, you give me a secret.
The subtext there, it does exist here, and I think that is Orson and the weight that Perkins is bringing to this movie. That's what I mean when there's two different movies, because there is a literal story in which the character never truly knows why they are on trial or whatever up to the very end, the philosophy of it, the warning of the story. But then there's this other aspect that is Anthony Perkins, who doesn't seem too interested in women, who seems very tense and a little slightly femme.
Yeah.
And a part of you is like, no, he's on trial for being gay. They'll never say it, but he's on trial for being gay.
Yeah, the way it's set up at the beginning is so interesting. It definitely feels like a play. It makes sense that it's a lot of Kafka transfers very well to stage.
I want to say real quick that Bosch was played by Akim Tamiroff, who played the guy who was killed in the hotel in Alphaville.
Yeah.
So.
He's a great character actor.
Sure.
When they are facing each other, it's the most intimacy you feel between Mr. K and another character. And you're right. The way it's set up at the beginning, he is asleep in his bed. These inspectors come in. And he's under arrest, but they don't want to disrupt his life. They're not going to take him away, but they have some people from work who are going to go to work with him to watch him, I guess. So there's this idea that, did someone at work say something about him? Did someone he lives with say something about him? Is it his landlady?
Yeah.
At one point, he kisses Mrs. B, Miss B, who lives there, who is a woman of the night. She works all night, and landlady doesn't really approve of what she's doing because she stays out drinking with men until all hours of the night. Even when he kisses her at a point, it's not passionate. It's like he's trying something, which is great. But yeah, there's this idea of, you're in trouble. We know what you did.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm afraid you won't find any subversive literature or pornography. Don't touch those record albums.
What's this thing?
That's my pornograph. My phone.
What's this?
What's what?
A circular line with 4 holes.
Circular.
No, it's not really circular. It's more ovular.
Don't write that down.
Ovular.
For goodness sake.
Why not?
Ovular.
We can't not write it down just because you say we shouldn't.
Ovular isn't even a word.
You know what you did. Everybody at your job knows what you did, and we're gonna get you for it. But you know what? Not right now.
It seems like the most logical move you can make if you're being accused of anything, whether they're telling you what it is or not, is to keep your mouth shut, right? But
yes.
But Mr. K, he's asserting this logic, even though that he's being presented with illogical actions with no explanation. He still has this systemic hope. He thinks he can logically overcome this and figure this out, and that there must be some mistake.
It seems you are under arrest, Mr. K.
Yes, I know that.
But not the way a thief is put under arrest.
No.
No, with your arrest, I get the feeling of something abstract, if you see what I mean.
See, it's so abstract I can't even consider that it applies to me.
Of course not, Mr. K. Aren't you going to eat something?
Men two coming into my room the way they did, well, I simply wasn't prepared. Now, in the office, for instance, I'm always prepared. You can't just crash in on me there, I should say not. People sometimes have to wait for weeks before they can even get into where they can speak to my secretary. No, my mistake was letting them start in on me before I even had a cup of coffee.
Coffee?
You know, I should have just had my coffee. I would have been much more prepared for them.
Which is how it ties into that fable, because the man waiting at the door, what's on the other side of the door is the law. He's the only one that can go through that door to get to the law. But he's never allowed entry. And that is exactly what's happening to Mr. K. He wants to be involved in this process. He wants to understand what's going on.
He respects the law.
But he only shows up one time. He respects the law, and he believes that within the law, he has a chance. But like you said, the trial is happening without him. He goes in at one point, and it's like a play. It also reminded me of the end of Beau is Afraid, where everyone is just all around you and everyone is just staring at you, and it's very much a show, and they seem to be laughing and clapping on cue.
I notice that your examining magistrate has just given some of you a secret sign. Well, I don't know whether that sign was meant to be a signal for applause or hissing, but I hereby publicly empower the examining magistrate to address his hired agents out loud. Let him say hiss now or clap now, whatever he wants.
And so that also shows the ridiculousness of the whole thing, the farcical part of our court system and the society by which we're all supposed to like have this faith to be honest and true and just.
And we know instinctively, and we're watching this man flail, this man who has this belief in law, this belief in the system, and we know this is going to be a journey of unfounded belief based on nothing, because we know enough that no, this isn't going to be working out for him at all whatsoever.
The other thing that's weird to me is there's a subplot about his young cousin who wants to come talk to him all the time, and he always is shooing her away from his job. There's a part where his boss is admonishing him for having any interaction with any young girl.
How old are you anyway?
16, practically.
You're 15, hardly that. You certainly shouldn't have come out here alone.
I wouldn't be here if my cousin hadn't got himself in trouble with the law.
Check up on you in that school?
I try to.
You sneak out after hours, is that it?
You're not the only crook in the family.
Oh, that's not a very
okay,
funny joke.
you write home and say what a delinquent I am.
He goes to this painter, this artist, because he's trying to have his case. He's trying to get more people to argue on his behalf, or he's trying to get to the judge that could have a say. And when he goes to see this man, there's all these young girls just chasing him. And he's just running away.
When he goes to see the painter who paints judges' portraits, that's wild.
It's weird to me.
I mean, there is some deep shit here I can't fully explain.
I don't fully get it either, but he's in this, it's a cage-like room because it's not solid walls. There are slits between every board. And I've been really thinking about this. He is in a room with another man who also seems effeminate, who talks about how he spends long hours painting all of these judges. He knows them all very intimately, and he has their ear, right? There are these two men who are ostensibly in this cage, surrounded by these young girls who are acting as though they are in love with these men.
Like it's
they want these men's attention.
The Beatles in America when they first came.
Yes, they're like superstars.
Well,
they just want to touch them. And the man sneaks him out the back door.
Yes, queen, yes, queen, yes, queen.
Yeah, the painter.
I don't even think I need to try to explain
that
euphemism.
The painter is definitely flamboyant.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
And he even says, "You'll come back to me, won't you? Like, you'll come back and see me, you know? We'll see each other again." It's very coded.
The immense details in the performance of Perkins and the settings, and there are just places where they go where there's crowds of people. His job is just this big hall of just people sitting at typewriters just doing the same thing.
There is something gorgeous about that room. Everyone is just sitting, facing the same direction, typing and typing and typing. And that's one of my favorite sounds. We've talked about this before, the sound of typing. But it's hundreds of people. Their heads are always facing away from us. But his office, where he is supposed to be more in charge, has no walls. It's out in the open. He doesn't have anywhere that is his own place. Even in his home, the door to his bedroom opens up into Mrs. B's room. He doesn't really have privacy. He's exposed.
He doesn't have his own true space.
One of the things that hit me the hardest was when he is, trying to figure out the trial, what's going on. He's searching for answers, and he comes upon this building, and these buildings are gorgeous. Like, there's some amazing architecture in this thing.
Yeah.
But there's all these extremely old men standing in these tattered clothes with numbers around their necks, and they're just waiting. And at one point, he's told that they're the accused.
He has an advocate, a lawyer, I guess you could say, by the name of Albert Hassler. He's played by Orson Welles himself.
I love that Orson Welles understands the part he should be playing in these types of movies.
There is something about Orson that feels like he's a great actor, right? But he's not like an actor that disappears. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a part of you that always knows it's Orson Welles.
He said two words, I think, and I was like, hey, that's him in the bed.
Yeah.
That's him in the bed.
I mean, he's just such a distinct personality.
And at that point, you couldn't even see his face. It was just smoke.
Yeah.
Or whatever, steam coming off of him.
Oh, you came to see me about this case. That's good. It's a most interesting affair.
Careful now, Joseph. Then you know about my case already?
How's that? I didn't understand.
I'm the one that doesn't understand.
It is your case, isn't it?
He's trying to placate our Joseph K. as much as he can, and Joseph K. goes back and forth on wanting to just be done with his services. As he goes deeper and deeper into these things, it's just more and more confusing for him. And the advocate does not seem to be doing much good for the other people who are waiting.
But it's all a power play because he doesn't want Mr. K to leave him. So at one point he has the maid nurse lady bring the other man who's been waiting in the servants' room for years to see him. He says,
let's get him in here. I think it's time you learned how other accused men are treated. Get Block in here, Lenny. Go and fetch Block.
Let's show him how other clients are treated. And he yells at this guy. He treats him like shit. He doesn't even uncover his face to talk to him.
You were sent for, weren't you?
There I was.
You come at the wrong time.
Oh, no, sir, I came immediately, sir. The minute I heard my name. Do you want me to go away?
You're here, aren't you?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Then stay.
And she tells the man, like, kiss his hand.
Yeah.
And he crawls up onto the bed and uncovers Orson's hand and just starts kissing it. He's in this man's bed begging him for attention. It's fucked up. Also, Orson Welles, particularly in this because he's a little bit younger of a man, he doesn't have like facial hair. He's very baby-faced. He looks like a gigantic toddler.
Yeah.
His head is so big.
He definitely needed that beard when he got fatter.
He needed the beard always.
I can relate. I gain a little weight, a beard works a lot better. Our Joseph K., frustrated, his nerves are racked, remains weirdly optimistic in what he can argue on behalf of himself.
You gotta have a lawyer, don't you?
Influence, that's all that counts in the long run. Oh, Hassler's always bragging about his personal connections, but what's he really up to? Besides, I'm not exactly stupid. I can defend myself. Look at the position I've got at the office. Don't be surprised if you hear any day now that I've become deputy manager of my entire department.
But again, he's not even at his trial. His trial is happening as he's running around trying to make sense of everything. Until finally, two men come and grab him. And they take him out to some more barren area. And what do they hand him? A knife, a pistol? I can't remember. But essentially, they're giving him the offer to take his own life because the trial is over. He's been sentenced to death. And he refuses to take the knife. So they're like, okay. So they go up on top of a cavern. It kind of reminded me of Speak No Evil. At the end, where they got them down in that cavern and they're...
Stoning them to death?
Well, they didn't stone them to death in the trial.
No.
But they pull out a big thing of dynamite and they light it and they toss it and run off. And then you see Anthony Perkins, Joseph K. Seems like he goes a little mad.
You! You dummies! You'll have to do it! You'll have to kill me! Come on! Come on!
Grabs the dynamite, but then you never see him again, and then a distant shot of the explosion. Just going off.
You hope in that moment, I still had the hope maybe he could throw it, but that was never going to work.
You can maybe work it out in your mind that maybe he did throw it somewhere far enough away that didn't affect him. But
I don't think he could have thrown it far enough away to not affect him. He was so weak already.
But what would be the point? He's pretty much condemned. Death may be preferable to going through all this once again. The fable we get at the beginning, the style of it, I'm glad I remember this, is like a metal shaving kind of thing. It's like a Wooly Willy type art. You know, the Wooly Willies where you take the little thing and you move it around. That was the style of the illustrations and the fables in the early
That's
part
cool.
of the movie.
It reminded me of just like a really old book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked cool though. But this is a deep movie. I might want to rewatch this after a few months. But it is one that deserves to be combed through, parsed through, the immense amount of details, the beautiful shots. And again, Anthony Perkins is amazing. Absolutely amazing in this movie.
The tragedy of Anthony Perkins is, one, that he could not live his life authentically as himself out in the open. Again, his friends knew who he was. His family knew who he was. But, you know, he makes this movie. What's the year on this compared to Psycho?
Psycho, this is 62. Psycho was 1960, so 2 years before this.
Recently, I watched an interview with his son, who directed Longlegs. He talked about how part of the reason that he was chosen in Psycho was also because he was a gay man, and Hitchcock knew that. And he was so amazing in Psycho that a lot of people didn't want to take a chance on him because people believed that was him.
Yeah.
And he ended up doing 4 Psycho movies.
Yeah,
it became a passion project for him. I feel like, or it seems as though he was always trying to write something within that story or explain something about himself.
It was definitely the one that made him an international star.
Yeah, but it kind of cast a shadow on his career.
I mean, he did he did keep acting. A lot of TV stuff is popping up on this list.
But you watch this movie.
I think he had to go overseas to make a lot of things.
That's what I'm saying. You watch this movie, and he should be one of the major stars.
One of the great actors.
He should be one of the great actors. He's so good. He was so good in Psycho that some people couldn't see past that.
I mean, he was so good in here.
Absolutely.
And just in these 2 major roles, the only 2 Anthony Perkins roles I can recall, he is just carrying the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is when he's standing opposite of seasoned character actors and Orson Welles. So this is a complex movie, one of those film school movies, right? I can see no true error in terms of technique and performance.
No.
In the trial, I think it's got to be a 5.
I do too. This is an S-tier movie, baby.
Yes, queen, yes, queen, yes, queen!
Check it out, folks. It is an S-tier. We have deemed it a masterpiece. The Trial by Orson Welles from 1962 rests between the underrated Joel Coen tragedy of Macbeth and The Wicker Man by Robin Hardy. It's at least as good as those movies, if not better. That's it for this trial, and the future gets sad as we keep going forward. So check the show notes for links to other places to find us. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us what you know about Anthony Perkins, any fun old Hollywood facts. We love that shit. You can always do shit like that for us. You've all been found guilty.
I'll be back tomorrow.
It's true, you know. Accused men are attractive. Not that being accused makes any immediate change in a man's personal appearance. But if you've got the right eye for these things, you can pick out an accused man in the largest crowd.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
It's just something about them. Something attractive.
And book a cameo if you want me to say naughty, dirty things. Book a cameo now.
It can't be a sense of guilt.
Link in bio.
You can't all be guilty.
Bye.